good. I'm good. Thanks for joining us today. I have Seenam Lula with us. Excited to be part of this conversation with her because I've been wanting to have a conversation with her for a long time, but it never happened. She has a busy schedule, and also geographically we are not aligned together. So I
Yep.
take the opportunity. Yeah, go on, Sainam.
No. I was just saying that when it's time for you to sleep, it's time for me to work and the other way around.
Very true, very true. Thank you very much for taking time and joining us today. What we have done is as a series, we are running a series which is called as OKR Expert Series, and we've been having a lot of questions coming from our users, sometimes from the prospects, and also sometimes from the OKR enthusiasts who really want to start with OKRs. We've launched a form online. We've been receiving questions through online, and we are curtailing that and taking through the experts. And I have a few questions, very interesting questions to you. I think those who have asked would be delighted to know what you talk about it. To start with, I think I remember talking to you about this topic in our last webinar, talking about OKRs and KPIs together. I think we had some agreement, we had some disagreement. So I really wanted to put that to the table and really talk about it. How do you really think OKRs and KPIs can work together, Seenam?
Great question. I think I'll start from the point that a lot of companies, when they adopt OKRs, maybe they don't have any other framework besides OKRs, or companies that have previously worked with KRAs or KPIs and want to adopt OKRs. The biggest myth in everyone's mind is that it is either or. And in my view, that is incorrect, because the way I view it is KPIs are health metrics of an organization or of a team. And each team has its own cadence of measuring them. So in terms of a human body analogy, the way I try to look at it is we go at least twice a year, hopefully, to the doctor to, just for a regular health checkup. And you end up giving your blood 3 tubes, but you end up getting 50 results back. And they span for everything from your red blood cells to white blood cells to your vitamin deficiencies, your mineral deficiencies, your cholesterol, etc. Right? So now let's say all of your results come back good, but it's only your bad cholesterol that is excessively high. The way I would look at it is the rest of them are your KPIs. But now when you want to say that my objective is to get healthier, one of the KRs that you would have is improve my bad cholesterol from, say, 220 to 140. So that's a KR for you. And then maybe the next 3 months, aside from that, maybe you have 2 other KRs, and you spend your energy focusing on these 3 so that you get them back in control. But that doesn't mean that after 6 months, you're not going to go back to the doctor and repeat the same test again and get all of those KPIs back. So in the same scenario, in a business environment, let's take, for example, a marketing team. A marketing team might have 4 key pillars. There is brand, there is PR, there is social media, and then there is performance management. Now, if you just take social media as an example, you're still going to be measuring a whole bunch of metrics. You are measuring your LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Google, all these media followers, engagement, etc. Not all of them become part of your OKRs. You're going to look at what the company's OKRs are. And in the marketing team, you're going to align your OKRs to deliver on the company OKRs. So let's say if you are an early stage company and one of your KRs might be increase followers on LinkedIn from 100 to 1,000, because you're at the stage where people are not even aware of who you are. Now that is a KR as part of your objective of building awareness. But that doesn't mean that you're going to stop measuring all the other 50 metrics across all the other social media that you have. You're not going to bring them into OKRs, because then that's going to muddle the focus. So it's important for organizations to keep measuring metrics that keep the lights on, which is your health metrics, that is your KPIs. But it is equally important to remember the distinction that OKRs have metrics that need focus to improve from X to Y.
Perfect. I mean, rightly said. wherever we worked also, there have been scenarios where we worked in a operational high environment where the manufacturing setup per se, the KPIs are very dominant there. People don't really know where the intervention should happen. Can I convert all my KPIs to KRs and start running my OKRs? Is the first question, because for me everything is important, right? If I let go of one KPI, it's like I'm not doing anything. It's not there in my OKR board. Am I not doing anything to the organization? Is that the feel that they get? But now, having understood, after your coaching and training, they also understand where the intervention is required. Not all the KPIs need OKR intervention, converting that as a key result. So that's definitely a very important, I think, as a OKR coach, everyone has to educate people to not convert the pure OKR KPIs into OKRs and then start running the entire progress. So that definitely doesn't really be aspirational goal at all. So that's very
Correct.
right said. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean there are hundreds of metrics in the business.
Yeah. If every KPI was to become a KR, then where is your focus? And
Very
why are
true.
you adopting OKRs? You might as well just do what you were doing before.
Very true. And also, while I was working with startups, when we work with startups, when you talk about manufacturing, they're all very well said. They have their own focus very well defined. But when you're talking about a startup, they just emerge. There are a lot of dependency among each other, right? The cross-functional dependencies are very, very high. But at an early stage, it is very essential for them to identify the cross-functional dependency. Otherwise, then they start becoming silos. Though adopting OKRs, they become silos. So how do we really identify those dependencies, and how do they really realize that we need to really work along with the other departments? Any pointers that we can actually work on?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest advantages that I have seen of OKRs is the ability to create this lateral alignment early on rather than stumbling upon it as you are working. And when I try to map this in my mind, the two broad categories that I see of cross alignments are either it is finish to start. And I'll give you an example. Let's say we were building a road in Bangalore. Now, somebody has to finish purchasing the land where the road is going to be built before the road is built, right? So there is a cross dependency over there because there are two different teams that are doing these two different exercises. Or there is the type which is finish to sort of start your other activity. So, for example, if I'm going to lay the asphalt, I need somebody to first excavate. Now, I don't need them to finish excavating the entire path. As they start excavating, I can start laying the asphalt, but the planning has to be effective where they are significantly ahead of me in excavating while I start laying the asphalt, right? So that typically that's what happens in a business environment. So very often in a startup, you will see product team making a amazing roadmap and saying this feature is coming and that feature is coming and we are going to do this and we're going to do that. Meanwhile, all of this is dependent on HR onboarding people in their team. And especially in environments like India, where it takes 3 months for someone to give a notice and then join a new company, we're literally talking a whole cycle will go by before product team sees one new person. Right now, if both of them were independently writing their OKRs, product will say, well, we'll increase customer retention, we will reduce attrition, we will reduce customer acquisition costs by doing what? Building, XYZ features. But for that, we need people which they have not aligned with HR, and HR says, oh, I'm just going to post the jobs this quarter. And onboarding of people will happen in the next quarter. So when you look at each other's OKRs left and right, two things happen. One is the discovery process, right? You discover your cross dependencies early on in the planning stage itself, rather than in the middle of work pointing fingers at each other. And the second thing that happens is that you are able to align your implementation plan. So product might be better off deferring certain things that they might need to do in that roadmap to the next quarter when the actual talent comes on board, and focus on what they can impact or influence this quarter with the resources that they have within the team. Or they may give a directive to HR that we don't need to bring people on from other organizations. Is there another way for us to fill the talent gap? Can we find people who are already out of jobs or fresh out of college or being upskilled or flexible people, right? So there is all of this problem solving that can happen early on in the planning stage if you align OKRs to the left and to the right. If you don't, then it's going to be a very frustrating process because neither teams are going to achieve their OKRs, or one will achieve over the other. So a lot of times when I do OKR coaching, organizations get very daunted by this planning exercise. They'll say, okay, so first we write our OKRs, then we do top-down alignment, then we do left-to-right alignment, then we do back-down to top alignment, and then we begin executing. And my question to them is, would you rather not do all of that and discover challenges as you go along and miss your goals and then say, oh, we never had that aha moment? So that's the way I look at it.
Very true, very true. Very nicely said. The example was really very, very, very easy to simple to understand by everyone. And one thing which I've also seen, when you're aligning, when you're doing a cross-functional alignment, there is also something called, you have a directional alignment, right? You need to really take the direction and start aligning rather than doing an explicit one, getting rigid or promoting your KRs as an objective. Then it pushing as a waterfall movement for probably you can also do more of a directional alignment. That's again the culture of the organization. Either ways it works. Whatever works for them works for us actually.
Very true.
So very nicely put. At the last, I'll not take much time. I want to ask you one final question. We talk a lot about OKRs growing the business a lot, right? We talk about 10x. There are how many X's have actually gone every day up. We're really not sure, but 10x is something it's very well proven as on date. So how do you really get to measure? There are a lot of other factors that we measure business growth also. How do you actually segregate OKR separately and say, hey, OKR has contributed to this amount of business growth?
Well, so I think there are some prerequisites that we should talk about, because OKRs are not like some fairy dust that you're going to come sprinkle in an organization, get a fabulous tool like yours, get a fabulous coach like me, and voila, we suddenly have transformation, right? So there is the prerequisite, first of all, is a good strategy, because OKR is the framework for execution of strategy. So if you do not have a good strategy in the first place, there is going to be no business transformation with OKRs, which is something very important for leadership to understand. Then the second is the actual implementation of OKRs also has to be done the right way. And the way I try to explain this to people is, it is a framework. So it's like, I'm a Hindu, right? So I love the framework of Hinduism as a religion because it offers us a lot of flexibility, right? Some of us can choose to be vegetarian, some of us can choose to be vegetarian, some of us can choose to be pescatarian, whatever works, right? In the framework, it allows us to practice our spirituality while not being bonded by what we eat. Now, OKRs are the same thing. It is a framework. You have to make it your own. But there are some givens that are non-negotiable. So for instance, transparency, which is again where a tool like yours comes in. The number of times I see organizations attempting OKRs, and one team has OKRs in PowerPoint, another one has it in a Google Sheet, a third one sends it to each other over Slack, a fourth one just keeps it in email. And then they wonder why OKRs are not working for us. So you need to have them all in one place. You need to, as we spoke just a few minutes back, you need to have achieved cross alignment, and you are constantly, going back and forth in terms of persistent collaboration to enable the initiatives or plans that deliver on the OKRs. Then the third important, requirement over there is that you are actually hyper focused. Even if you use, the tool that you have, but if you have too many OKRs at the organization level, too many OKRs at the team levels, at the end of the quarter, you're going to have a bunch of mixed results, because some will be achieved, some will not even have started, some will have mixed focus, some will be KPIs that you check off. Yes, I made the plan for sales training, not a KR at all in the first place. But you will say, well, but my sales didn't pick up because I did make the plan. Next quarter will say, but I did complete the training, and I'm not seeing any transformation. So the quality of OKRs with hyper focus on very measurable metrics that you can view in the front view, not in the rear view, is an important quality. Now, assuming that you do get all of this right, in my experience, I have seen that by the third quarter, organizations start hitting most of their OKRs. And again, there's two different approaches, as we know. There's aspirational OKRs. So when I say they're hitting their aspirational OKRs, means on a majority of them, they begin to achieve 70%. Versus if an organization had committed OKRs, meaning they're going for 100% achievement, on a majority of them, they start seeing 100% achievement. So essentially, if you were a company that said, well, I want my sales when I started the first quarter we were getting to 5-6 million. By the third quarter, you're actually going to start seeing 10 to 15 million in terms of revenue achievement. If you were trying to arrest your customer, attrition and improve the retention, if you had a very high attrition of say about 30%, if you did OKRs right and your plans or your experiments worked well, you are going to come down into 10 to 12% attrition. So that's how you can measure it. You will see a significant change quarter over quarter. And as a last parting thought, one of the things that I see organizations not focus well on is the objective. I think as engineering companies, especially when I say product and tech companies, we're very good with metrics, capturing the numbers, say increase from X to Y or decrease from X to Y. But the objective is also equally important. In fact, there was a PwC study that said companies that articulate their purpose and share the clarity of intent really well with their teams see 90% growth above industry average. So it's also very important that your OKRs tell the whole story to the entire company, right? Your objective cannot be rah-rah statements like customers love us, grow 10x, because that means nothing to the employees. Capture the value loop of what is it that we are providing and what is it that we are achieving in the objective so that everybody understands how to pull in the same direction. And then the metrics have to be super sharp in telling improvement from X to Y so that you're actually measuring progress. And by the third quarter, you will see a significant change in achievement.
Perfect. That's very true also. Once you know exactly what objectives are you trying to achieve and articulate it well, not in great English or not in great language, simple words which actually can communicate what is there in the mind. That really helps because it goes to the last level of team member. It's easier for us to actually understand the vision statement or the objective the organization sets. So as you rightly said, our experience has also been similar. When we adopt OKRs in our customer place, it takes definitely 2 to 3 cadence for them to actually come on or get on track. But nevertheless, from the day they get on track, definitely there's been a growth, and we are able to visually measure their growth also in terms of numbers, in terms of quality of deliverables, in terms of achieving the target. Off track or at risk are very, very minimized. You're on track of at least 80% of your time.
Done. I wish you all the luck.
Thank you very much and have a great journey ahead.